Alright, this is a video on the assembly of the Banggood DIY T100 aluminum alloy tank Caterpillar chassis smart robot kit for Arduino. There are no instructions. I thought I'd put up a video of assembling it. Part 1 will be assembling the chassis. This video became way too long and boring, so what I'm doing is putting a summary up front, followed by track installation, and then it'll be followed by details. Good luck. Okay, so I have it assembled except for the track. And let me go over what I did. So one thing you could start on early are the wheels, and that is what they are called. And these wheels, there's two different kinds. There's the kinds with the gears and the kinds with the without gears. On the kinds without gear, well, actually all of them have two sets of two parts, two circular parts, that are connected by three brass parts. Those three brass parts use the standard screw. It's the screw that's most numerous. It's about 1 millimeter long, and it has a hex head. So you need 6 screws, 3 brass parts, and you can connect these wheels. There's this extra hole. I have no idea of the significance. On most of them I lined those up. I have no idea if that's what you need to do. You'll notice in the parts, and I'll refer to the picture here, there are short brass parts and there are long brass parts. The short brass parts are used for the wheels without gears. The long brass parts are used for the wheels with gears. So you just put all 6 wheels together and you can set them aside. Then the next thing you can work on is this upper frame, and that's made with these 4 parts. And notice with these two, there's these little holes. You want those little holes in the pictures on the web. Those little holes go forward. I put these screws in for no particular reason, just to see if they fit. But I put those holes in the same direction, so they go horizontally. And then vertically, you have these 2 parts, which they're the same. And you notice these parts have this cutout here on top. Not sure what that's for, maybe to put a body on of some kind. And underneath, there's 2 holes. Those 2 holes, there's actually 4 holes, 2 holes close together. 2 of them go to this angle bracket, and 2 of them, and then the other 2 outer ones go to the crossbars. And those again hook up with what I'll call the standard screw. Now there are a lot of lock nuts there. Not as many lock nuts as I would normally want to use, so I just use them in certain places. I'm going to just keep an eye on the model as I use it and see what comes loose. So, okay. So once you hook up these 4 pieces together, so the order of putting them together, you can put the wheels together. You can hook up these 4 pieces. You can then hook the angle irons separately to the lower chassis, the parts that hold the wheels, because in order to get a screwdriver in there, you're going to have to be, you can't quite get a screwdriver in between. So hook these brackets up before to these lower parts before you hook it up to the upper parts. When hooking up the brackets on the lower parts, you're going to use this, it's the longer thin screw that has a Phillips head. And what I did was I put the screw head on the inside, I put a lock nut on the outside of the lower member, and then I put a regular nut over the lock nut. I have no idea if that's the right way to do it. It's still a little loose when you do it, and I've tightened these up. Maybe that was intended, but I find no other screw that seems appropriate for that. Once you get the lower member on, then you can start attaching the wheels through the axles. For the wheels without any gears or sprockets, you use this large screw with a hex head. It's bigger than what I'm calling the standard screw. Now there's another version of this that's a bit longer. That's the one that is used out here on the outer edge of the sprocket gear, of the geared wheels, to go into the axle for the motors. You notice the axle for the motors is a separate big piece that slides over. The end that goes towards the motor is the end with two holes, and the two set screws go in those two holes. The screws that connect the motor to the lower chassis are the relatively small, less than a centimeter. Oh, let me get in the angle. Let me get in the shot. These are less than a centimeter. They have a Phillips head, and the head you see is relatively flat. Phillips head, flat, as opposed to what I'm calling the standard screw, which has a more three-dimensional head. That's so the screw heads, and you can see one just above my finger there, the screw heads lay flush to the bar. And that's important so that the set screws don't hit them. I initially tried putting it on with the standard screw, and the set screw was hitting that. The other thing that you want to note is that the motors go at opposite ends, so the lower bars have to be mounted accordingly. And I have it right now, maybe I'll have to correct it, that the geared wheels slide in as far as you can up against the set screw. And notice there's a gap here between the end of the motor axle and the end of the bracketed wheel, and that's so that the tread can fit on properly. And you'll notice in the tread, a little hard to see, in the tread there's holes for the gears, and the gears on one edge go into this edge and the other edge go into those holes. So when the gear lays on there, you have something like this. As you can see, I've installed one track. I'm going to show you how to install the other track. You'll note I took the long track that we got and broke it down, and now I understand why there are other pieces, because there's just not enough track with that. They must have had one long standard track and they just took that off the shelf and then added these two small pieces to make it work. The thing you need to know is first is how to disassemble the track. And you can see on the smaller tracks, it might be hard to see here, you can see at this end right there, that's different than the other ends. There's a tie bar that is coming out. That's on both of the small tracks. This is one of the tie bars that I took out of the long track in order to break it down. See, it's on both of the small tracks. Okay. The way you push on the small track, it's ready to come out, but on the large track or anywhere, if you want to do that, what you do is you take, and I'm using a very small tool. This is a 0.8 by 40 millimeter hex head screw. You know, a very small paper clip might work, but you take that and you're going to use that to push the tie bar out. Now you note here on the small track that the tie bar is coming out one end. Put the big track down. The tie bar is coming out at one end. And the two sides of the track are different. Notice, and it's still a little hard to see here, but you'll notice that there are these round edges and much farther extending edges on one side than the other. This is also the opposite edge to the portion in the track where there's holes in the track. Let's see if I can get that to show any better. You notice there's a row here where there's holes in the track. It's the opposite end where the tie bar is coming out. So what you want to do is look on the end that is closer to where there are holes in the track, right there. You want to look at the very edge of that. Or not, there's no way this is going to show up on camera. Maybe you can see it. There's a little hole there. You want to push this into that little hole, and be careful you don't miss and stab yourself. But you want to push this into that little hole, and that pushes the tie bar out. Let's see if we can use that white contrast back there. Put this in. It takes a fair amount of force, and you push that out. You have to start from scratch at other places. So we've got to create now, and so I basically broke down the track, and I just kept trying different lengths and guessed at the right length to make this fairly tight. It's not slack, but it's not completely tight. And the way you best do it is you put this, the track goes so that the outer edge, where you would see that there's room for these treads to grip, for these spokes to grip, you put that on the outside, and then the hole in the track goes to the inner side of the drive wheel. I've been calling it the geared wheel. I think it's properly called a drive wheel in tank lingo. So you put that there, and you can see now this track is not long enough. Also note that, remember, these teeth here, you'll see teeth on the inner side. Again, the contrast is hard to see here. Those go between these two wheel segments, and you wrap this around, and you're going to want to get these close. Now, the thing that you need to do in order to keep this turning, and this is why you needed to get this hole lined up on both sides, which I just noted I didn't do here, is so that you can put this Allen wrench, use the biggest one that fits, through those two holes, so that I can show you on this wheel. It goes through the two holes, and then it will catch here. So that way, when you pull on this, this won't turn, and you can use that against some resistance. I'm going to change these because I set them up wrong, and I'll be right back. I didn't align those two holes. Okay, so what I've done is I realigned these top, I'll show you on this wheel, that top hole. They're aligned up for both wheels. And I took the middle Allen wrench and I shoved it through both of them. And then I got the Allen wrench, which just slid out, up against, by turning the wheel, I got the Allen wrench up against this bar. So now, despite the fact it can fall out easily, I cannot turn this anymore. So when I put the tread on, which is the way to do this, put the tread on, and that's backwards. I want the tread kind of hanging over the drive wheel. And then I can't pull this anymore. By the way, there's a good view of the teeth in the underside of the wheel. Of the tread. So now I can pull on this all I want. It's not going to go anywhere, so I can put tension on it. But what I've got to do is start assembling the tread. I showed you how to take it apart, but now what I've got to do is hook on these smaller pieces, and I'm going to need to make sure it's aligned properly with that hole in there on the same side, and the inside being the inside. And then I'm going to pull the bar, the tie bar, out, and put these two together, and then slide the tie bar back in. This takes some finesse. You'll notice on the tie bar, you won't be able to see it here. One end is rough and the other end is smooth. The rough end goes in last when inserting from the outer edge of the tread. Okay, so you've got all these little holes or places to thread the tie bar through, they've got to all line up. Probably easiest to do this on a flat surface, so that is what I shall do. And you do that, actually it slides in pretty easily, and then you need some type of hard point to secure the tie bar in. And now that's nice and secure. It looks like all the others. Let's get a length on that. I probably need the other piece to come in. Again, you can't see the teeth very well. Maybe you can see them a little bit there. The teeth go on the inside. No. The teeth go towards the outside. The teeth on the inner part of the tread, there's a good view of them. The teeth on the inner part of the tread goes towards the outside. Get my Allen wrench set up again. Put it on the outside. And not a big surprise, we need that last, we need like 2 or 3 segments of that last tread to make this work. See the gap when you put the 2 pieces together? Alright, I'm going to work on that off camera and get that going. And there's no special way to do it. I haven't counted the links. Maybe someone else, when they see this, can count the links. But looks like, well, I clearly need 2 more links because there's 2 more sprockets. That's one way to do it. Alright, I'll come back up when I've got this all together.